Hello friends, welcome back to Wow IAS. Welcome to the part 5 of Vision Social Issues PT 365 discussion, and in this part we are going to discuss the third chapter, that is education. Now let's begin. So in the education, first what we have is the new education policy. See, this new education policy was brought in by the government last year in 2020. So considering from the examination point of view, if you see, we have to understand all the important things and we have to remember all the important things. Okay, so here if you see, this educational policy was approved by the cabinet last year, and this policy actually it paves way for transformational reforms in the field of education, that means in the field of school and higher educational systems. So this policy covers both school as well as higher educational systems, remember this, and this policy will replace the 1986 policy. Remember, first thing, so this will actually pave a transformational reform sorry, this will be a transformational reform for both school as well as higher education, and the other important thing is it will replace the 1986 educational policy. Okay? And also another important thing is that the Ministry of Human Resources will now be called as Ministry of Education. This is another important thing. Okay, so these are the important things we have to remember. And if you see the timeline of the evolution of educational policy, it was in 1948-49 the University Educational Commission was launched. After that, in 1952-53, the Secondary Education Commission was launched. In 1964-66, Educational Commission was launched under Kotaria Commission. This is an important commission, remember this. Kotaria Commission was actually commissioned in 1964-66. Later on in 1968, the National Policy on Education was brought in. After that, in 1976, under the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, education was brought into the concurrent list. Till then, education was in the state list. But in 1976, remember, this was changed to concurrent list, and in 1986, an education policy was brought in based on the previous recommendations and amendments, and this policy of 1986 is what we are even currently following before this 2020 policy. Okay, and in 1992, the National Policy on Education was modified a bit. Okay, and in 2016, later on, we have brought in a new commission of TSR Subramaniam, and this commission gave a report in 2016, and later on the recommendation of Kasturi Rangan committee, the 2020 National Education Policy was brought in. So this is the timeline. So if you see the important things what we need to remember. So first, remember the Kotaria Commission, which was there for educational policy in 1964-66. After the Kotaria Commission, what we have is the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976, which actually brought in the education from it moved the education from state list to concurrent list, and later on in 1986, yeah, this is important. We have to remember the National Policy on Education 1986 wala, and in 2016 the TSR Subramanian Committee, and in 2019 the Kasturi Rangan Committee. So these are the important committees what we need to remember from the examination point of view. Okay? So if you see some of the new initiatives and missions, so there is this important mission called the National Curricular and Pedagogical Framework for Early Childhood Care and Education. So this is an important one. So if you see this curricular and pedagogical framework, this will be developed basically by the NCERT for children up to the age of 8, because above the age of 8 we already have a proper pedagogy means basically the process of teaching. So above 8th class we already have the course structure and everything, but for the children, to deal with the children who are below 8 years, not above class, not above 8th class, it is above 8 years. Okay, so to deal with the children who are below 8 years, for them what we need is a comprehensive methodology in a different way, because they cannot understand things like the elder children. And next one what you have is the National Mission on Foundational Literacy, and under this the state and union territories will prepare a plan to attain the universal foundational literacy, because that is one of the major aim of the government of the day, and to achieve the numeracy, or you can say the literacy and numeracy in all primary schools for all learners of the grade 3 by 2025. This is the second thing. And third one, if you see the National Book Promotion Policy, this is basically to ensure that there is always the availability, accessibility, quality and readership of books across the geographies, languages, levels and genres. This is a third important thing. And the fourth important thing, if you see, the National Curricular Framework for School Education, and this will be developed by the NCERT. So remember, NCERT will even develop the pedagogical framework as well as the curricular framework for school education, the pedagogical framework for children up to 8 years, and the school education for rest of the children. And another important initiative, if you see, the PARAK initiative, that is Performance Assessment Review and Analysis Knowledge for Holistic Development. So remember, PARAK is performance analysis basically, and this will be set up as a standard setting body under the Ministry of Education. And there is another important body that will be set up, that is the National Testing Agency. This National Testing Agency, if you see, it will serve as an autonomous testing agency which will conduct all the central government, or you can say which will conduct all the entrance examinations for the top universities. And there will be this National Professional Standards for Teachers, and this will be developed by the National Council of Teacher Education by 2022. And next one, what you have is the new and comprehensive National Curriculum Framework for Teacher Education by 2021. And at last, what you have is the National Professional Standards for the teachers, and this will be developed by the National Council for Teacher Education by 2022. So these are the important initiatives and the missions. And next one, if you see, with regard to the school education, the NEP, what it talks about, it want to bring in children from 3 to 6 years under the school curriculum. Till now, only children above 6 years are under the school curriculum. In fact, even the right to education policy talks about providing education to the children from 6 to 14 years, but not below that. But now we are talking about early childhood education as well. So the early childhood education, that means the education for 3 to 6 years, is also being taken care of by this national education policy. And if you see, another important thing, this policy actually aims to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio, because currently, if you see, the gross enrollment ratio, that means number of children who are enrolling out of, let's say there are 100 children, out of 100 children in grade 6 to 8, only 90 children are enrolling. In grade 9 to 10, only 79.3 children are enrolling. And in grade 11 to 12, only 56.5 children are enrolling. That means the gross enrollment ratio, that means number of children who are enrolling, is gradually decreasing when the classes go higher. There are various reasons for this. Maybe sometimes it is because of lack of proper education. Sometimes it is because of lack of the children are not passing. In fact, that is another one reason. So because of all of these things, lack of facilities, etc., and a lot of these things, and also some cultural issues as well. Okay. So if you see the curriculum and pedagogy, the curriculum is now going to change. Earlier, we had a different type of curriculum, but now, if you see, the structure will be redefined into 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 structure. So 5 years, if you see, that will be early childhood. Okay, so 3 years in Anganwadi. After that, 2 years, that is from 6 to 8. So that will be there as a early childhood education. After that, 3 years, okay, from class 3 to 5, from the age of, it will be taken care of for the children of age of 8 to 11 years. After that, you have 3 years from 6 to 8, and it is considered as middle education. Okay, and after that, the next 4 years, that is from class 9 to 12, it will be considered as secondary. So now we are going to change. So now we are going to follow this new structure of 5 plus 5 is early childhood, that is foundational. After that, 3 years, which is preparatory. After that, another 3 years, which is middle, and after that 4 years, which is secondary. So this is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 approach. Okay, and this actually reduced. So this is very important, because currently we are facing a lot of issues with regard to the learning outcomes. So to ensure that these learning outcomes increases, which is one of the aim of the government, because till now what we have done is we have tried to bring children to the school, but now we are trying to focus on improving the quality of children. And also, if you see about the student assessment, the exams will be conducted in the grade 3, 5 and 8, and this will be conducted by appropriate authority. Okay, and the board exams will be there for classes 10 and 12, and this will be continued. But the only thing is that they will be redesigned a bit because of the new framework. Okay, and the National Testing Agency, as I told, will be brought in for the entrance examination to premier universities. And if you see about the robust teacher education recruitment, so another important thing is that the teacher education and teacher recruitment and teacher training timely is another important thing, because the teachers don't have enough qualification, then it is the students who is going to suffer. It is the students who is going to suffer. Okay? So that's why the policy also focuses on the robust teacher education and recruitment. Okay? So, and pause this and go through all these important things. Okay, I'm not discussing everything, because as this is a last year policy and last year prelims also happened after this policy came. So now we are not going to go into deep about this policy. You can just pause and go through these important points. Okay. Right. Next, if you see higher education, in higher education there is focus on research and teaching as well. Okay, and because both of these are important, very important things for the development of education in the country. And you have the autonomous degree granting colleges, which focus exclusively on the teaching, and affiliation of the colleges phased out in 15 years, and stage-wise mechanism established for granting autonomy to the colleges. And by 2030, the institutes actually have to become multidisciplinary institutes, all the higher education institutions. And in every district, the government is planning to set up one higher education institution with which has multidisciplinary aspects. Because if you see the higher educational institutions currently, they don't have enough of you can say that multi disciplines. That means if they have engineering, they don't have arts. If they have arts, they don't have engineering. So these multi-dimensional institutions have to be formed. Only then the students can have actually learn a lot of new things, learn wide variety of things, because these days the lines between the subjects are blurring, and that has to be taken care of. And also another important aim is that in the higher education, the government aim to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education, including vocational, that is including vocational, from 26.3% in 2018 to 50% in 2035. So this is a pretty good target, and we can achieve this if the government take proper care of all the initiatives. Okay, and also it talks about the holistic multidisciplinary education as well. So some new initiatives what we have talked about are given here, like the multidisciplinary education and research universities, and the National Research Foundation will be set up. The Higher Education Commission of India will also be set up, and this Higher Education Commission of India, if you see, this will be set up as a single overarching umbrella body for higher education, and this will exclude the medical as well as legal education, but rest of the disciplines are covered under this National Educational Commission of India. And if you talk about regulations, they will be regulated by various institutions like the National Higher Education Regulatory Council of India. And next, you have the General Education Council for standard setting, you have higher educational grants for funding, and you have the National Accreditation Council for accreditation. So all of these institutions will work. So next, if you see some other major provisions, if you talk about financing, the government plans to increase the investment in educational sector to 6% of GDP. This is an important thing. And if you see the technology, the National Educational Technology Forum will be set up as an autonomous body created as a platform for free exchange of ideas on use of technology to enhance the learning and assessment. And in this, the integration of technology will be done at all levels of education. And if you talk about adult education, the target is to achieve 100% youth and adult literacy, which is very much needed, or which is actually very much need of the hour, because only if people have literacy, they can actually gain new skills. They will have the capacity to gain new skills so that they can use these skills in various jobs, so that they can even increase their socio-economic condition as well. Okay? If you see online education and digital education, the comprehensive recommendations to promote online education to ensure the preparedness with alternative modes of quality education whenever and wherever the traditional and in-person mode of education is not there. That is another important thing. And also, the professional education will be integral part of the higher education. The professional education, if you see, they are like the standalone technological universities like health sciences, legal and agricultural universities, etc. And now they will be becoming multidisciplinary institutes, as we talked about. Okay, the engineering colleges, the medical colleges, the agricultural colleges, they will become multidisciplinary to cater to all the disciplines. Okay, so same thing, also the promotion of languages, art and culture also will be done. For that, new courses will be introduced, and also local artisans, local craftsmen, they also will be promoted. Okay, so this is another important thing. So next one, if you see the STARS project, STARS, remember, STARS means strengthening teachers. ST, you can remember like this. ST stands for strengthening teachers. And if you see this STARS program, cabinet has approved this, and this will be launched under the National Education Policy. Okay, this actually mainly is to give effect to this National Education Policy, because teacher training and teacher qualification is very much important in order to achieve all the important needs, you can say. Because if the students have to be empowered, if the students have to receive good education, the teachers first have to have that qualification. So for that only this project is going to be launched. And this project initially covers 6 states: Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Kerala and Odisha. And in this, all the teachers will be covered, and around 25 crore students in 15 lakh schools and over 1 crore teachers will get benefited from this. And it is a central sponsored scheme under the Ministry of Education, and the project will be shared between World Bank and the states. Okay? And if you see, there is this focus on the initiatives like PM eVidya, the Foundation Literacy and Numeracy Missions, the National Curriculum and Pedagogical Framework for Early Childhood Care and Education, which is as part of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And if you see at national level, the main aim under this is to strengthen the Ministry of Education's data system and support Educational Ministry in improving state performance, okay, so that they can improve the gradings, and support the Educational Ministry's efforts to establish the assessment center called PARAK. As I told, PARAK is the Assessment and Review Center, and also the Contingency Emergency Response component also will be there. And if you look at the state level, In the state level, you have strengthening early childhood education and foundational learning. After that, you have improving learning assessment systems, and next you have strengthening vocational education in the school. So all these three are at the state level. Okay? So these are the important things. These are the important things which we have to remember under the STARS. The STARS is the teacher assessment program. Remember this very much. Okay, right. And also, the main another important outcome of this is to supply multi-year financing for India's participation in programs for international student assessment. Okay, because if you go to this international student assessment, then what will happen is that the Indian universities will get more international exposure, and also our universities will raise the standards to the international standards. Next one is the Prime Minister Research Fellowship. Prime Minister Research Fellowship is given by the Ministry of Education, and it was launched for 7 years from 2018-19, basically to improve the quality of research. So this actually, if you see under it, the students who are graduated in the final year of BTech or integrated MTech or MSc in science and technology streams from IISc, IIT, NIT, IISER and IIIT will be offered direct admission into PhD in the IITs or IIScs. That's the important thing, and basically this is to retain the talent what we have, retain the talent pool. And another important scheme what you have is the Maulana Azad National Fellowship Scheme, which is given by the Minority Affairs Ministry, and this will be a 5-year fellowship program to the students, and it will be given to the communities like Buddhist, Christian, Jain, Muslim, Parsi and Sikh. Okay? And next one what you have is the Prime Minister's Special Scholarship Scheme, and this special scholarship scheme is implemented by AICTE, and this was started in 2010 for capacity building of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh youth. Remember this. Prime Minister's Special Scholarship Scheme is basically for Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh students and implemented by AICTE, All India Council for Technical Education. Okay, so what are the modifications which are done? If you see the modifications, the requirement of GATE score is reduced and students from any recognized university can apply. And another thing is that NITs appearing in top 25 institutions as per NIRF, they can become part of the Prime Minister Research Fellowship granting institution. And next one is the lateral entry is not allowed under earlier, but now the changes were done. It is now the lateral entry is now allowed under which students belong to various other institutions also can apply and go to this research program, right? The next one, if you see the annual status of education report, the ASER report. Remember, ASER report is released by Pradham, and you have another report, another survey called the National Achievement Survey, which is by the Education Ministry. Remember, ASER is by NGO Pradham, and the National Achievement Survey is by the NCERT under Ministry of Education. Basically, ASER aims to survey and provide reliable estimates of children's school and basic learning levels. That is the important thing. And here if you see the schooling status for the children of 3 to 16 years and children in the age group of 5 to 16 years, they are tested comprehensively, and their ability to read simple text and do basic mathematics is basically tested. So this ASER, if you see, it is a household survey. That means the people who are doing survey, they will go from house to house and they will survey this. And except for 2015, the ASER was conducted every year since 2005. And in 2017, the ASER Beyond Basics focused on the abilities, experiences and aspirations of the youth in 14 to 18 years. And the ASER 2020 findings, if you see, the children enrollment has shifted from private to government schools, and 5.3% of rural children of the age of 6 to 10 years, they are not enrolled in school this year compared to 1.8% in 2018. Sorry. So that means the COVID has an impact on the children education as well. And in the same grades, higher percentage of private school children receives learning material vis-a-vis the government school children, and the significant variations by the state in significant variations by the state in children's receipt of learning material is actually taken care of in the private compared to that of the government schools. So here the difference between the ASER survey and the National Achievement Survey is given. The ASER survey is a citizen-led survey where the people go from house to house and do this survey. But in the National Achievement Survey, if you see, this is conducted by the Educational Ministry, and actually this is conducted by NCERT under the Educational Ministry, and this is a school-based survey and it is a paper pen survey. That is a major difference. And if you see ASER survey, it aims at representing a sample of all children. But here, the National Achievement Survey actually considers children enrolled in government and government-aided school. That means it has a bigger pool of children. That is a National Educational Survey. And the ACE survey, if you see, it focuses on foundational skills like reading and math, but the National Achievement Survey, if you see, it looks at a wider variety of skills. And the ACE survey is limited to rural areas of the country, but the NAS, the National Achievement Survey, is conducted throughout the country in both rural as well as the urban areas. So this is about the National Status of Educational Report. Okay? So I think now you have understood what is the difference between ACER and NAS. So next one, what you have is the State of Education Report for India. The State of Education Report for India is actually released by UNESCO. So State of Education Report, Technical and Vocational Education and Training. So this is the whole name of the report, and this is released by UNESCO. Okay, so that is the major thing we have to know. And if you see the Remote Learning Reachability Report, and this is also released by UNICEF. So remember, Remote Learning Reachability Report is released by UNICEF, and the State of Education Report for India, the State of Education Report is also released by UNICEF. So remember these two, and these are some of the data given by this report, the Remote Learning Reachability Report. 31% of school children worldwide can't be reached by remote learning programs due to lack of necessary household assets, and 3 out of 4 children or 3 out of 4 students come from rural areas. India's 24% of household will actually 24% of households with internet access e-education. Only 24% of households have this. Okay, so this is the major data that was given. So here the TVET provisions in India are given. You can just pause and go through this once, okay, because this is a repetitive of what we have discussed already. So next one, the Global Educational Monitoring Report. Remember, the Global Education Monitoring Report is released by UNESCO again. So you have seen previously the State of Education Report of India is released by UNESCO. The Remote Learning Reachability Report is released by UNICEF, and here the Global Educational Monitoring Report is released by UNESCO. So UNESCO and UNICEF are the two institutions which are releasing these kind of reports. And here some of the government initiatives are given. So the initiative, if you see, so here if you see the EPG Pathshala. So this EPG Pathshala is basically for the e-content, the post-graduation e-content, remember this. And you have SWAYAM. Remember, SWAYAM is online courses for teachers. SWAYAM, online courses for teachers. That because, just remember, SWAYAM means the self-independent. Self-independent, who can be self-independent? Only the teachers can be self-independent. So remember like that. So next, the National Education Alliance for Technology. National Education Alliance for Technology is basically use of technology for better learning outcomes in higher education. This is another thing. And if you see, to increase connectivity with institutions, what are the initiatives that the government launched? National Project on Technology Enhanced, the NPTEL. Okay, National Project on Technology Enhanced Learning. Next, the National Knowledge Network, the National Academic Depository. So these are the 3 initiatives that the government launched for increasing connectivity. So in Academic Depository, you will have all the library, you can say it's a e-library. In here, if you see the National Knowledge Network, it will be a network where all that, you can say, a lot of dear faculty and a lot of good content it will be made available by a lot of teachers. So this content which is available can be used by the students. Next, the NPTEL. The NPTEL is basically the technical education and other things. It will be provided by top professors of the country. That is NPTEL. In the others, if you see, the Pradhan Mantri E-Vidya. This Pradhan Mantri E-Vidya, if you see, it's an initiative for digital education under which the top 100 universities of the country is allowed to start online courses by 30 May without UGC license. So during the COVID pandemic, this was launched. So the top 100 colleges, the top 100 universities in the national framework, the national ranking framework, they can directly launch an online course without any UGC license. Next, you have the Pragyata Guidelines for Digital Education, and this is by the Ministry of Education, which provides support for children with special needs, use of audiobooks, science, language, etc. So remember, Pragyata is basically guiding the disabled children. That is the thing, or you can say children with special needs. These are the various initiatives for e-learning. Next, if you see India's efforts towards inclusive education, the share of teachers actually from SC has increased from 9% in 2005 to 13% in 2013. The National Education Policy was brought in. The Right to Educational Act was brought in. And also the right to person with disabilities was brought in so that the disabled people or differently abled people, they will also get access to all the government offices and the education institutions. So these are the India's efforts towards inclusive education, and these are government initiatives for e-learning. Okay, now let's move on. So next, Institution of Eminence, IOE. That means the government gives this Institution of Eminence to top universities of the country, and this is issued by UGC, the University Grants Commission. So Institution of Eminence means these universities or top institutions, they will have some special rights. So using these special rights, that means they will have greater autonomy. They can establish various branches on their own without taking permission from the government, and also they can set up international branches as well. Okay, without any permission, or you can say you can with a very less permissions. With very less permissions, you can say. So this institution of eminence allows to set up campus abroad after receiving NOC from the MEA, that is the Ministry of External Affairs, and the Home Affairs. Okay, and this is basically in line with the government's national education policy. So because of this, the government is trying to develop, or you can say the government is trying to enhance the quality of higher education, because once we try to reach the global standards, then the quality of education automatically improves, and this will increase the rankings of India's educational institutions as well, you can say, in simple words. Next, for this, currently 20 institutions are selected, 10 public institutions and 10 private institutions, and as I told, they will enjoy some special benefits. What are those benefits? The additional funding, the complete academic and administrative autonomy, assessment pattern, etc. All of these things will be there. And also, the government will provide additional 1,000 crores for all the public institutions, but no financial support is provided to the private institutions. But for them, only the regulatory, you can say, the regulatory support is provided by the government directly. Now let's move on to the next one. The rankings, if you see, we have various kinds of rankings. So the first is the National Institution of Ranking Framework, which is launched by the Educational Ministry. You have to remember this, the National Institution for Ranking Framework, launched by Educational Ministry. And this ranking, if you see, it basically ranks the colleges, universities, and you can say all kinds of universities and all kinds of colleges of the country. So this act as a guide for the students so that they can select the universities based on these kind of rankings. The students will know which university is better, in which university what kind of course is better. All of these things, the student can get more information by this kind of ranking. And the top three ranking institutions, if you see under this, the IIT Madras, IISc Bangalore and IIT Delhi are the top 3 institutions, or you can say top 3 universities. Okay? And the next one what you have is the QS World University Ranking. This QS World University Ranking for 2021 was published, and IIT Bombay, IISc Bangalore and IIT Delhi featured in top 200. This is the major thing. So only these 3 institutions you have in the top 200, and the rest of the institutions are not there. And the ranking universities are based on 6 matrices: the academic reputation, the employer reputation, the faculty student ratio, the citation per faculty, the international faculty ratio, and international student ratio. Remember this thing, because generally UPSC, if you see these days how they are asking question, they are generally asking question which institution or which global body releases this report, or if they release this report, then what are the various things that are taken into consideration, the various matrices. So here remember, academic reputation, employer reputation, the student faculty ratio, international faculties ratio, the citation per faculty, and international student ratio as well. So all of these criteria are taken into account. Okay, so this report says that there are reasons for drop of ranking of India: the low ratio of international faculty and the low ratio of international faculty and student, and also poor faculty student ratio. We have also very less faculty in our institutions. That is another major important thing. So here the QS World University Ranking matrices are given. The same thing what we have seen already. Another important another important ranking is the Times Higher Educational University ranking. So this Times Higher Education ranking, if you see, it evaluated 1527 higher educational institutions across 93 countries. 1527 higher education institutions, and 63 universities from India qualified for highest ranking. 63 universities from India qualified, and not even a single university is in the top 300. That is the major thing. And among India, if you see, the IISc Bangalore is at the top position. And if you see overall, USA has most number of universities, that is 59 in top 200. And the top university of the world, if you see, according to the Times Higher Education ranking, it is UK's Oxford University. Okay, so UK's Oxford University is the highest ranked. US has most number of universities in top 200, and the top rank for India is only above 300, and that is also Indian Institute of Sciences, the IISc Bangalore, right? And none of India's universities in top 300. So that's the state of universities currently what we have. Now let's move on to the next information, which is Atal ranking of institutions on innovation and achievement. This is important from the examination point of view, so see carefully. This Atal ranking of institution on innovation achievement, if you see, this is released by Educational Ministry. First thing you have to remember, and this will rank major institutions based on innovation and entrepreneurship development indicators. So these indicators are taken into account. Okay, and this is given by the Educational Ministry. So under this ranking, if you see, the IIT Madras bagged the top spot for best centrally funded institutions, and after this you have IIT Bombay and IIT Delhi. And in private universities, if you see, it is Kalinga Institute of Technology, which is there in Odisha, which is the winner. And if you see here, the College of Engineering Pune has topped. The College of Engineering Pune in Maharashtra has topped the list for state-funded autonomous institutions. That is another important thing. Okay, and this Atal ranking of innovation, Atal ranking of institution on innovation, the achievement, if you see, it focuses on improving the quality and also try to measure the real impact of the innovation that is created by the universities. That is another major thing. Okay, so this is what is all the information about Atal innovation, Atal rankings. And remember, there are 7 parameters. They are innovation and governance, the budget and funding support, the infrastructure, awareness, promotion and support, the promotion and support for entrepreneurship, innovation learning methods and courses, intellectual property generation, technology transfer and commercialization. So these are the various parameters for rankings. Okay, right, now let's move on to the next one. So next one is the accreditation. The accreditation, if you see, in India is given by NAC, the National Accreditation Council, and this is an autonomous institution under the Ministry of Education. And in 2017 the new framework was launched in 2017. So remember this. And basically accreditation is basically, it actually talks about the quality of education, the quality of the universities basically. That is the important thing about accreditation. Right. So in other important news, if you see, there are various other new initiatives which are launched during the COVID-19. So first one is the NISHTA, the National Initiative for School Heads and Teachers Holistic Development or Holistic Advancement, NISHTA. Remember like this, National Initiative for School Heads and Teachers for and Holistic Advancement. School Heads and Teachers Holistic Advancement. So it's an online program basically to improve the quality of school education through integrated teacher training. This is the basic thing, and it aims to train about 42 lakh teachers. Next one you have is the roadmap for NCERT for the year 2020-21, and this roadmap is given to the NCERT basically under the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Okay, this is basically to set up a foundational literacy and numeracy mission, which was talked about in the National Education Policy. Next one is the Student Learning Enhancement Guidelines, and these Student Learning Enhancement Guidelines are released by Educational Ministry. Remember this, and this is basically prepared, okay, to sorry, prepared by the NCERT, which is related to the gaps, you can say, which are basically there are various issues related to the gaps in the education. In order to bridge these gaps, this will be launched. Okay, and also if you see the guidelines to help children who cannot access online learning and recommending ways to learn at home will be done by this. That is the major thing, because if you see, the internet is not available with all the children, but they also have to learn. They also should not stop their education. So for this only, the Student Learning Enhancement Guidelines is given. Next one you have Yukti. This Yukti program is by the Educational Ministry. Yukti is by Educational Ministry, and this is basically to espouse technologies with commercial potential and information related to incubated startups in higher education. Okay, so this is what Yukti means. The Young India Combating COVID with Knowledge, Technology and Innovation. Remember Yukti, Young India Combating COVID with Knowledge, Technology and Innovation. So that is the full form of Yukti, and it is a web portal launched by Educational Ministry. Next one is the Enterprise Resource Planning, the ERP Samarth. So ERP, if you see, the Samarth, it's an e-government platform implemented by NIT Kurukshetra to automate the process of the institute. That is the major thing. Okay, and it's an open standard and open source architecture, and it caters to the faculty, student and staff at the universities of higher education institutions, and this will enhance the productivity by better information management in institutes by access to information and multi-purpose utilization. And this is launched by the Ministry of Education under National Ministry, you can say National Mission of Education in IT. Next one what you have is the Institution Innovation Council 3.0, and this is established by Ministry of Education in 2018. Institution for Innovation Council established by Ministry of Education in 2018, which is basically to create a local innovation system to enhance the innovation in the country. And if you see, this will help in preparing the Atal ranking for institutions on innovation, which we talked about previously. And so far, the IIC, if you see, it is established in 1700 higher education institutions, and now it will be established in 5000 more higher education institutions under IIC 3.0. Okay, so this is another important major thing we need to understand. So that's it guys for the day. Thank you for being with us. I'll see you again in the next lecture. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned. Jai Hind.